obviously a first-round exit was not part of the game plan for the Milwaukee Bucks last season, and a lot of questions were asked in regard of what needed to change. And in this offseason, nothing too loud really did happen, but that doesn't mean absolutely nothing happened. The Bucks made a few low-profile additions during the summer, all while keeping the main core of Giannis Antetokounmpo, Brook Lopez, Drew Holiday, and Chris Middleton, which I imagine most Bucks fans are quite pleased about. After all, this core did win a championship not too long ago. As a matter of fact, almost half of this team is still together since the 2020 to 2021 championship, and I think it's wrong for people to think that the Bucks played bad or even choked. Miami was clearly much better than a 7th seed. I mean, they made it to the finals, and they made calculated changes mid to late season and finally started to fit the puzzle pieces together, all in a time where the Bucks didn't have an answer for Jimmy Butler, Gabe Vincent, or Max Strus. I mean, Jimmy obviously popped off hard in that series, but only because Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, and even Duncan Robinson at times demanded quite a bit of attention around the perimeter, giving space for Jimmy. And all of this was on the heels of Giannis getting hurt and missing most of Game 1 and all of Games 2 and 3.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole lot to deal with, and you really can't blame the Bucks in that situation. In reality, we might have seen the best 7 seeds of all time in both conferences this year. Miami, they made all the way to the NBA Finals from the East. The Lakers made it to the Western Conference Finals from the West. And there's absolutely no shame in getting beat by a team that hot and just put it all together at the right time like the Miami Heat did. And given that the Bucks had dealt with injuries to Giannis, Chris Middleton was working his way back yet, and they never felt together at that point. You really can't overreact to it. And thankfully they didn't. I was never an advocate of completely blowing it up other than Giannis, and they didn't do it, and I think that was a good idea. Yes, it was a disappointing round 1 defeat to Miami, and they did move on from Mike Budenholzer in favor of Adrian Griffin, a product of the Nick Nurse coaching tree from the Toronto Raptors. But other than that, they didn't make too many other big changes. They are quote-unquote running it back rather than trying to dismantle and retool their team. They kept 11 of their 15 players from their roster from last season, and their only new additions are Jay Crowder, they got him at the trade deadline last year, and are bringing him back after a pretty rough half year there, and him even making some comments about, I don't know what I'm doing here, and they're not using me correctly. But obviously he felt better about it after they fired and moved on from Budenholzer, and hopefully he'll kind of give them what they're looking for then. A big 3-and-D wing, tough power forward type who can, even in a small ball lineup, kind of play the 4-5 combo next to Giannis and hold his ground down low and then hit the corner 3. And then other than him, their actual new additions, they brought in Malik Beasley, who I think you were referring to earlier, a super underrated pickup for a veteran minimum. I can't believe they got him for that cheap. Very mad the Lakers let him walk for a minimum. They could have brought him back at about $15 million per year, and I didn't want that to happen, but I also didn't want them to let him go for a minimum contract. Big pickup for the Bucks. He's been one of the highest volume 3-point shooters over the past 3 years now. He's taken 11 of them per 36 minutes and hucked them down a 37.3% clip. Very few guys can do that. You're talking about like Buddy Hield here, Steph Curry, and Malik Beasley pretty much. And that's a big time pickup for them. Even though he's not a great defender, not a great all-around player, he's a great 3-point shooter, can provide plenty of offensive production, and they really didn't have a guy off their bench who could do that for them last season. I think that'll be a big pickup for them, and I'm looking forward to how he'll mesh with their core. Other than him, they picked up Robin Lopez, a little more team chemistry, reuniting the Lopez brothers together again. Really looking forward to him having more fights with the mascots. That'll be interesting. Other than that, 2 more rookies they picked up. Chris Livingston, great 3-and-D potential, super athletic guy. Didn't show a whole lot throughout college, but has great potential. And I like that they're continuing to add to their core, given that it's getting a little bit older now. They try to do that with Marjon Beauchamp, and hopefully he'll take another leap forward. But Chris Livingston and then Andre Jackson Jr. as well. Good combo guard with good defensive ability and potential. And I like that they added a little bit to their core and their team, even though that they did bring a majority of them back. So there's definitely room for growth here.
No, I agree 100%. And the additions are going to be extremely valuable. I think that when you look at what they were kind of missing, and the Bucks core team is pretty complete. Everyone on this roster knows their role. Maybe besides what we talked about with Jay Crowder, which he could easily get into. It's a completely different type of ball game than in Phoenix. But I think that everyone other than that, they know their role. Everyone knows the job they have to do. They come in, they do their job. Malik Beasley's going to do that same exact thing. And like you say, it's crazy that they got him on a minimum. He's only 26, by the way, which is not old by any means. He seems older, but he's going to be that knockdown 3 guy that they're going to look to a lot, obviously. But everyone does their role just fine. I'm not too sure on Robin Lopez, on what they're going to really do with him. Obviously with the team chemistry, but I don't know if you're going to play him or maybe try and develop some of the other guys down low. And just in general, this team is huge. There's 3 players registered at 7 foot tall and then another one at 6'10". So I think that defensively, they'll probably be pretty good. I think adding Malik helps with that 3 that they need. Obviously, like you say, just to kind of reiterate, develop Marjan a little bit more. And I think that, yeah, running it back is definitely the best call. And it's going to be good to see the Bucks kind of regroup, I guess, after the season exit, the early season exit, I guess. But I think that it'll be good to see them kind of run it back.
Yeah, you know, everyone always wants to panic after a disappointing playoff defeat, especially for the #1 seed last year who gets beat in the first round. But you really can't panic when you have a good proving core with valuable NBA championship experience like they have. Again, they had the best record last year, 58-24, and their core is by no means washed up yet. They had a top 3 player in the entire league with Giannis, one of the best defenders and two-way players in the entire league with Jrue Holiday, and you could really say that about Brook Lopez as well. Could have had a really good argument for a defensive player of the year last year at age 35. He continues to be great. One of the few true centers in the entire league who you can play at center and then have a non-shooting power forward kind of like Giannis on the court with him. And that's super valuable for their system. It might be a little bit different now with Adrian Griffin, but that's something you won't change no matter what head coach you have. Lopez and Giannis, incredible defensive front court there. Won't change no matter what coach you have, and they'll be able to replicate that as long as both of them stay healthy. Very confident in them and Jrue Holiday and a majority of their core. But I am a little bit, I wouldn't say unconfident, but really kind of a wait and see approach with Chris Middleton. I was a little bit surprised that they kept him. He did help them out by opting out of his contract and taking a little bit less to lower their cap hit, even though they did have to re-sign him for 3 years rather than only his 1-year expiring contract. That helped them out, but he definitely did decline last year, mainly due to injury, brought him along very slowly, and he only played 33 total games, the lowest of his entire career other than his rookie year. Could not really seem to stay healthy. He kind of dealt with something all year, even while working back from his knee injury. He saw a significant decline on defense compared to the really good defender he used to be. He's not bad, but I wouldn't call him good anymore, and that's a really big hit to the wing defense, especially given that Grayson Allen, he's not a lockdown defender. Jay Crowder, he's still a pretty good defender, but he's declining too. Beauchamp hopefully can take on that role eventually, but that's a big hit, Middleton declining, and hopefully he can pick it up as the year goes on this season. He did pick it up a little bit as the year went on last year, averaged 24, 6, and 6 while shooting 47% from the field and 40% from 3 during the playoffs, and that was kind of the one positive for them despite getting beat by Miami. Middleton looked a lot better, and I'm hoping he can carry that over into this season.
No, I agree 100%. You know, saying everyone stays healthy, say that everything works out with the new coaching staff. I think that my ceiling for the Bucks, and I feel like I don't have to say this, but this is how we always do it, is I think they could easily run it back. They could easily make another championship run. It obviously always depends on like how everyone blends. But we talk about how this team's not washed, but they are getting close. They're not getting close, but they're getting close in age. They're getting up in that level where we start saying, okay, they're a bit older. You know, Brooks, you said 35. Drew's 33. And Chris, I think, is 32. I mean, they're not washed by any means, but they're getting closer to that. So I think that what we could be seeing is maybe if things don't go well this playoff season, this postseason, then we maybe could see some sort of big change. They're never going to nuke I just don't think that's what would be wise for them or what they're going to do. But I think that we could see a big change with that main core, that kind of the four that we talk about. But as of right now, where it stands, I'm a firm believer that the Bucks will make it deep again. They'll probably finish top 3, top 4 in the East again, and I think that everyone will kind of work out and get in there together. What are you kind of thinking on this Bucks roster?
Yeah, I mean, kind of a regular season ceiling for them probably isn't important anymore. They really cared about it last year and made a big push for that #1 seed after getting beat by Boston the previous year after Boston had home court. And I kind of think they're going to revert back to not caring too much about seeding again. I feel like making that big push for that #1 seed kind of contributed to them being a little bit worn down for the playoffs, and I don't think they'll care about it too much. But even with that, I would agree they'll probably be a top 3-4 seed. And who knows, maybe they will make a push for a #1 seed again. Obviously, they wouldn't turn it down. So I think they definitely have enough talent and chemistry to do it. I just don't think they'll really care about it too much. I think top 3, top 4 will be in their sights. In general, though, what I'm looking for from them is just to prove to Giannis that he should remain with them. The New York Post put out something earlier, I think this week or last week, about him saying he won't sign a new deal with them this year. It might make more sense next summer, but even then, he quote-unquote won't know until then. He is eligible for a contract extension later in September, and he's obviously not committing to that fully yet. He wants to put pressure on the Milwaukee Bucks, kind of taking a page out of LeBron's book by keeping pressure on the front office, by building a good team around him, paying the luxury tax, of course, and they really should do that around him. And I'm looking for them to, keep building upon what they've been doing, hopefully to get back to the NBA Finals, show that they have everything that he needs to keep competing. I'm a big Giannis fan. I want him to stay in small market Milwaukee until he retires, and I think he obviously would like to as well. I don't think he'd be afraid to leave their team, but he wouldn't obviously be willing to do it either. He's really just kind of trying to keep that pressure on them, as he should, to keep building a good team around him. And I'm looking for them to get back to their NBA championship ways, whether or not they actually win another one. I think a bust for them would be falling anywhere below the conference finals and getting beat in anything less than 6 or 7 games. That to me would be like a bust for them. I feel like for a really completed and we know everything about them team like the Bucks already, I don't really look at it from like a ceiling approach, because we know what they can do. To me, it's like, what would be below expectation for them? And to me, it would be not making the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals. But in my opinion, they have everything that they need to get there. It's all about staying healthy, like you mentioned, and then putting it all together when the time comes, and hopefully getting back to the finals and maybe winning another one.